Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly,
you might want to sit down for this one because what just went down in the WNBA isn't just shocking. It's career-ending, league-altering, and absolutely catastrophic. Stephen Smith just dropped a bomb so massive that the entire women's basketball world is scrambling for cover. And here's the part that nobody saw coming. Caitlin Clark, the biggest star the WNBA has ever seen, has effectively walked away. Not with a press conference. Not with some tearful Instagram post. She's done it quietly, strategically, and with a power move so cold it's left everyone who doubted her absolutely frozen in place. The WNBA Players Association just made the biggest mistake in sports history, and they don't even realize it yet. Welcome to the crash out heard around the world. Let's rewind for a second and talk about how we got here, because this didn't happen overnight. The tension in the WNBA has been simmering all season long. Locker rooms divided. Veterans throwing shade. Rookies getting iced out. We all saw it. The hard fouls that weren't just competitive, they were personal. The Olympic roster snubs that made zero business sense. The constant media narratives trying to diminish what Caitlin Clark brought to the table. It was toxic from day one, and everyone pretended it was normal. But then the Players Association decided to light the match and burn the whole house down. They opted out of their collective bargaining agreement 2 years early. That's right, they ripped up their contract, looked at the league owners, and said, "We want more money and we want it now." On paper, it sounds bold. Packed arenas, private jets finally being chartered, TV ratings shattering every record in the book. The WNBA was experiencing a financial boom unlike anything it had ever seen. So yeah, the players wanted a bigger slice of that pie. Who wouldn't? But here's the problem, and it's a problem so glaring that Stephen Smith practically screamed it from the rooftops. They're demanding a fortune from a business that's been profitable for about 5 minutes. And worse, they're doing it while actively antagonizing the only reason that money even exists. They're betting that the viewership will stick around no matter how badly they treat their biggest star. That's not just risky, that's financial suicide. Now, while the union was busy making demands and shouting about equity, Caitlin Clark made a move that spoke louder than any protest sign ever could. She rejected Unrivaled. For those who don't know, Unrivaled is this new, flashy 3-on-3 league founded by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, two of the same veterans who've been giving Clark the cold shoulder all season long. They went to her with a massive offer. We're talking over $1 million for just a few weeks of work, equity in the league, and the red carpet treatment. They assumed she'd jump at it because, historically, WNBA players have to grind year-round overseas just to pay their mortgages. But Caitlin Clark said no. And that no wasn't just a scheduling conflict. It was a statement. Stephen Smith sees it for exactly what it is, a soft resignation. She turned her back on their league, their money, and their entire ecosystem. She chose to play golf, rest her body, and step away from the noise rather than give them the publicity boost her name would bring. It's the ultimate power move, and the message is crystal clear. I don't need you, but you definitely needed me. This is where Stephen Smith absolutely went off, and rightfully so. He's calling this the ultimate fumble of the bag, and he's not wrong. Think about it. The veterans and the union are out here demanding equity and revenue sharing, which sounds fair in a vacuum. But you can't, and I mean you absolutely cannot, demand a share of the Caitlin Clark money while simultaneously letting players headhunt her on the court and trash her impact in the media. We watched it all season. The hard fouls that weren't just competitive basketball. The side eyes in the locker room. The exclusion from the Olympic roster despite her being the biggest draw in the sport. The constant media shading, the dismissive comments, the jealousy wrapped up in fake solidarity. Stephen nailed it when he said jealousy is blinding them to the business reality. They're trying to squeeze the golden goose for golden eggs while simultaneously trying to cook that goose for dinner. You can't have it both ways. And by opting out of the CBA now, they're betting that Clark will just stick around forever, taking the abuse, fueling their salaries while they treat her like an outsider. That's not a strategy, that's delusion. Let's talk numbers. Because numbers don't lie even when feelings try to rewrite the story. The average WNBA player desperately needs this CBA raise. Without it, they're flying overseas to play in dangerous or exhausting conditions just to survive. It's the harsh reality of women's basketball. But Caitlin Clark? She doesn't need any of this. Her Nike deal alone is rumored to be worth nearly $30 million. Add in her endorsements with Gatorade, State Farm, Wilson, and countless others, and her WNBA salary is literally pocket change. We're talking less than 1% of her annual income. Stephen A. Smith hammered this point home with surgical precision. Caitlin Clark is the only player in the league who can walk away tomorrow and still be set for life. The union is out here crashing out, making demands like they have all the leverage in the world. But the only person who actually has leverage is the rookie they've been hazing all year long. If there's a lockout and the players don't get paid, guess what? Clark will still be cashing massive checks from Nike while she's practicing her putting stroke on a golf course somewhere. The irony is almost too much to handle, and it's not just the players getting exposed here. The league leadership is getting dragged into the light, and they deserve every bit of it. Stephen A. echoed what a lot of people have been thinking. The current WNBA leadership might be the worst in professional sports when it comes to managing this transition. Because they allowed a hostile work environment to fester around their biggest asset. Any other business in the world protects its rainmaker. If you've got a salesperson bringing in 80% of your revenue, you make damn sure they're happy, safe, and supported. But what did the WNBA do? They stood by and let the jealousy narratives run wild. They refused to step in when the discourse turned toxic. They let the veterans set the tone, and that tone was resentment. Now they're staring down a labor war with the union while their biggest star is quietly distancing herself from the entire inner circle. It's a management disaster of epic proportions. And if this league shuts down because of a lockout or a strike, those executives are going to have to explain to the NBA Board of Governors why they fumbled a billion-dollar opportunity because they were too scared to tell the veterans to chill out. Stephen Smith's final warning was chilling. He said we're pushing toward a breaking point where the silence becomes a full departure. If the union strikes and the games stop, Caitlin Clark isn't going to be the one suffering or begging for a deal. She'll pivot to broadcasting. She'll take exclusive overseas exhibition deals worth millions. Or she'll just build her brand independently and leave the WNBA in the rearview mirror. The resignation could become official if the toxicity doesn't stop. The players thought they were playing a game of chicken with the league owners, thinking they were driving a tank. But they forgot one crucial thing. The car actually driving this league forward, Caitlin Clark, has an eject button. And she just put her finger on it by rejecting Unrivaled. To really understand how we got here, we need to look at the timeline of disrespect that's been building since day one. This didn't start when Clark entered the WNBA. It started before she even played a single professional minute. Remember the comments from legends like Diana Taurasi and Cheryl Swoops? The warnings that reality is coming and that she wouldn't dominate the way she did in college? That set the tone. It deputized every veteran in the league to humble the rookie. And they tried. They blitzed her defensively. They fouled her hard. They face-guarded her 94 feet up the court. And despite all of that, she broke the assist record, the rookie scoring record, and dragged a lottery team into the playoffs. Instead of celebrating this incredible story, the union and the veterans doubled down on the "we all built this" narrative. And sure, it's true that the league was built on the shoulders of giants. But you can't ignore the person who finally turned the lights on for the rest of the world to see. By opting out of the CBA now, the union is trying to cash in on the attention Clark brought while refusing to admit she's the one who brought it. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Now let's talk about the unrivaled factor, because this cannot be overstated. That league was supposed to be the bridge, a way for WNBA players to stay in America during the off-season and actually make decent money. Stewart and Collier built it with that vision. But getting Caitlin Clark was the key to their entire television deal. Huge networks were reportedly waiting to see if she'd sign before offering a massive broadcast package. By saying no, Clark didn't just protect her own peace. She likely cost her rivals millions of dollars in potential revenue. It's a passive-aggressive strike that hits them exactly where it hurts most, their wallets. And Stephen A. implies this wasn't accidental. Clark is smart. She knows her value. By withholding her participation, she's proving exactly how much she matters. If Unrivaled struggles to get viewers without her, it validates everything he's been saying. The general public is here for Caitlin Clark, not just women's basketball in the abstract. So why now? Why would the union opt out 2 years early? They claim they want a new model that reflects the league's transformation, higher salaries, better pensions, improved travel. All noble goals. But the timing reveals their true fear. They think the leverage will never be higher than it is right now. They're afraid that if they wait, the hype might die down or the TV numbers might plateau. But here's the irony that Stephen A. perfectly captures. By creating instability and threatening a work stoppage, they're the ones risking killing the momentum. Casual fans who just tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark might not stick around if there's a lockout. If the 2026 season gets delayed or canceled because of these negotiations, those fans will flip the channel back to the NBA or the NFL. And they might not come back. The union is playing with fire inside a house made of paper. Stephen A. also didn't shy away from the racial dynamics and media coverage that's been fueling this entire mess. He's been vocal about how the media covers Clark compared to stars like Aya Wilson. He acknowledges that race plays a role in marketing, but his point is simple: business is business. You market what sells. The NBA did it with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson to save the league. They didn't worry about whether it was fair to everyone else. They worried about keeping the lights on. The WNBA is in its Magic and Bird era right now, but the players are acting like they're in some kind of socialist collective where everyone deserves equal shine regardless of who's actually selling the tickets. That participation trophy mentality when it comes to media attention is what's driving the wedge. The facts don't lie. Clark sells out arenas on the road. The Indiana Fever had higher attendance numbers than the back-to-back champion Las Vegas Aces. That's not opinion. That's statistical reality. When the union ignores that to push for equal outcomes, they alienate the very business partners who are funding these raises. And we need to talk about Caitlin Clark's mental health in all of this, because it matters. By the end of the season, she looked exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. The constant scrutiny, the lip reading of her teammates, the analyzing of every bit of body language. It takes a toll. Stephen A. suggests that her stepping back is a preservation tactic. She sees the crash out coming. She sees the union sharpening their knives for a labor battle. And she's choosing to remove herself from the blast zone. By staying in Iowa, playing golf, hanging out with her boyfriend and family, she's detoxing from the toxicity of the WNBA circle. And here's what's dangerous for the league. If she realizes she's happier without the WNBA than with it, the threat of her leaving becomes very, very real. We've seen it before with athletes like Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Andrew Luck. When the environment gets too toxic, the money doesn't matter anymore. And Clark already has the money. The golden goose analogy that Stephen A. uses is absolutely perfect. The Players Association is the farmer. They've got a goose that lays golden eggs, Caitlin Clark. But instead of feeding that goose, building it a nice nest, and keeping it happy so it keeps laying those eggs, they're complaining that the goose gets too much attention compared to the chickens. They're pecking at it. And now they're threatening to blow up the entire coop, the CBA, to demand a better deal for the chickens. Stephen A. is screaming from the rooftops that this is economic suicide. If that goose flies away, the gold disappears with it. The TV networks, ESPN, ION, ABC, they signed those deals based largely on projecting Caitlin Clark's trajectory. If she resigns or if there's a lockout, those networks will invoke clauses to withhold payments. The revenue sharing the players are demanding? It'll be 50% of absolutely nothing. So what happens next? That's the billion-dollar question hanging over this entire sport. The CBA deadline is going to loom over every single game next season. Every press conference will be shadowed by the threat of a strike. Stephen A. predicts that the media will turn on the union hard if games actually get missed. The public is on Clark's side. The ratings prove it. The jersey sales prove it. If the Players Association tries to paint themselves as victims while demanding millions, public sympathy is going to be non-existent. especially if the narrative becomes that they drove the most popular player in the world out of the sport. Caitlin Clark holding the Unrivaled card in her back pocket is her checkmate move. She's shown she can stay relevant without playing basketball for months. Can the other players say the same? If the league stops, do they have State Farm commercials running during the Super Bowl? The answer is no. They need the court. Caitlin Clark is the court, and here's the global dimension that makes this even more interesting. There are rumors of European teams preparing massive offers that would absolutely dwarf WNBA salaries just to have Clark play a few exhibition games. If the WNBA goes into lockout mode, she could literally go on a world tour. Imagine the Caitlin Clark Global Tour selling out arenas in London, Paris, Tokyo, Shanghai. She'd make more money in a single month than the entire WNBA payroll combined. The union is crashing out without realizing that globalization has given Clark the ultimate escape route. She doesn't need the WNBA to play basketball. The WNBA is just the most convenient option. But if it becomes too inconvenient, she's got the passport and the star power to take her talents anywhere on the planet. Stephen A. hinted at this perfectly. She's not just an American basketball player anymore. She's a global icon. This is the defining moment for the WNBA. The union thought they were making a power play. Instead, they might have just signed the league's death warrant. Caitlin Clark has resigned from the drama, and if they're not careful, she'll resign from the league entirely. The crash out is real. The consequences are catastrophic. And Stephen A. Smith just confirmed what we've all been whispering. The golden goose is about to fly away, and when she does, the WNBA will realize too late that they killed the only thing keeping them alive.